Hello and welcome to Ed's World, the show that you turn to when you're sick of hearing me talk to myself for all the time. I've got my headphones on because we're going to have ourselves a great interview. Anybody who saw the Generational Gap's New Year's Eve show has already seen me on there and has already seen the guests that I'm going to be having on. Please welcome to Ed's World, John from the Generational Gap. John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, how's it going, Ed? Um, I'm just, normal guy, normal job. Uh, guess I consider myself a center right leaning libertarian. Um, there's not really that much to talk about other than come check us out at the Generational Gap.
And I'll have that linked in the description below so everyone can see that. And I'll even highlight the episode where I was on
Awesome.
too, because it was kind of long and fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for New
Um,
Year's.
why don't you start out by telling us how you got into internet talk? Because, I remember you and I had the conversation that may have led to you doing so, but let's hear it from you.
Yeah, so it actually started a very long time ago with a podcast known as The Drunken Peasants with TJ Kirk, formerly The Amazing Atheist. And so I would watch them for a while. It looked like a lot of fun what they were doing, and it seemed like something, I would want to do. And I've had a lot of fun with like conversations with friends about politics or, just ridiculous videos on YouTube or whatever. And I thought that would be a lot of fun to do. And then it never really happened though for about like 3 or 4 years until recently when I met my co-host Robert. He's actually the cousin of my roommate, and so he started coming over the house, and we would have these fun like political debates, and they would get quite heated. But we would be friends afterwards still.
Well, Robert really
And
does bring out the best in people, doesn't he?
yeah, he really does. Um, so I approached him one day though, knowing that I wanted to do this. It's been in the back of my head for a while, and so I approached him about doing a podcast, and he was all about it. So here we are now. We've been doing it for 6 months now, and yeah, we've recently not exploded, but we've recently started to grow kind of quickly, and so that's been nice.
Well, I'm sure too, getting a bigger star like Matt Christensen on your show where
Yeah,
he relayed the audio back out for you, and that was really kind of him.
yeah, that's helped out a lot actually. In fact, that episode that he was on, we got more views on that episode than the rest of ours combined. So it was very, very helpful.
How many views did you get to that? I saw it right after it happened, but I haven't really looked back at it since.
Yeah, the last I saw, I think it was approaching 400. It was like 394, I believe it was. I actually just looked before coming on here, and I believe it was like 394. So it's still going up though.
It's interesting to me because I think a part of, well, you say that you were looking at doing the independent side of it longer than I
Mhm.
have, but I think a big part of the reason that we both came into this was the fact that we're both fans of Matt Christensen's show. Would you say that was a driver for you, or?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It definitely made me feel like, I could do that with less than what I was thinking before. I had purchased the Blue Yeti mic like everyone else had, and so we actually did. I think it
Everyone
was the
has that
first.
one.
Yeah, exactly. I think we did like our first 5 episodes with that because we didn't have our individual mics,
Hmm.
and then this one, the one that you have as well,
Hmm.
and it's been great. But yeah, so seeing Matt and Blonde, it's just the two of them and OBS, and they're able to make this show work. And they call it a duct tape production, but it's really really good though. It's not like super high production like some like the Young Turks,
Hmm.
but it doesn't need to be for for what it is. And so I think that's kind of pushed me over the edge of really wanting to do it.
Well, and that's a part of too. Like when I came into this, I one of the first things that I said to myself when I just because I had thought about listening to various radio talks and whatnot. I thought you either had to have a broadcast degree to get into any of this, or you had to have backing. And then, I started listening to the Daily Wire, and I thought, like you said, the big production like the Young Turks or Jeremy
Hmm.
Boring Money, I thought
Sure.
that's what you had to have to get an audience. But, after Ben Shapiro debated Cenk on stage, I wanted to watch some of that and take some notes because I was doing a written blog at the time. And instead of finding an actual listing of that show, I found a video by a guy about my age in a flannel shirt saying that Cenk said to Google it, so I did.
Oh, that was the first video you saw of
That
his?
was the first video I saw. I didn't see their long form podcast until like 6 months after that either.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was something like that for me too. I can't remember which video it was I saw of his first. That was a long time ago. But yeah, no, I mean they're great. That podcast is great.
Well, and to see everybody else doing the same thing, I mean, you think that you need to have a studio and you need to have some rich backer, like I had said, and
Yeah.
production values, when in reality, and I'd never heard of Styx before, I'd never heard of Sargon before or
Hmm.
anything like that. But in reality, you just need a webcam and a decent microphone and a studio that's quiet enough for you to have an hour to record.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about the quiet around my house. Um, oh man, I was actually gonna say something else and I forgot what it was now. Man, look at me.
Yeah, we could
So
edit
yeah,
that
go
out in
ahead.
post production.
All
Or we
right.
can just let it go, too.
Yeah, either way.
But that's the interesting side of it. Again, it's how many people are making big money doing this, and we're all
Hmm.
fans of even the smaller times. But what was
Yeah.
Sargon making before he got kicked off Patreon? Like 12 grand a month. That's a
Yeah, he was
hundred
making
some a
about 12
year.
grand. Yeah, he was making 12 grand a month, which is insane. But I did remember what I was gonna say now.
Go ahead.
Uh, yeah, I was just gonna say that like I'm glad that I waited until I did before I started doing this. Because in the past, I would say probably like 3 years, I've been reading a lot of philosophy.
Hmm.
And so I feel like I have a better understanding of, different arguments, different, what other people believe and why they believe them and the principles that guide them. And so I feel like I'm better equipped now than I would have been when I first wanted to do it, in order to, yeah, for that.
Yeah, any information that you can bring into any sort of debate will always help you, no matter what it is that you do. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
um, if you don't mind me asking, what's your background in before you came into something like this? And I bring this up because I was on a meet the family date not that long ago, and everybody that was around me said, "Oh, you must be a poli sci major," and I had to admit to myself and to them that no, I went to diesel repair school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm actually a cooler manager at a warehouse. At the moment, I still have a full-time job, which is why I'm not going to say the company's name,
Right.
just for safety reasons. So I mean, I still have a full-time job because I'm not making any money doing this, which I hope will change someday. But for now, I'm still doing that. Before that, I worked at a gas station. Um, kind of spent my early 20s, just dicking around and not really doing anything productive or worthwhile. And it was a big mistake, but I'm getting it back together now.
Did you go to college or no?
No, I never did. No.
Oh, there are people out there that would argue that actually was one of your bigger advantages and probably wasn't a big
Hmm.
mistake.
Well, yeah, yeah, no, I'm saying just not being productive in general was the mistake. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't think I needed college. I'm one of those people who enjoys learning constantly, and I do it constantly.
Hmm.
But I only like to learn things that I'm interested in. Otherwise, I just won't care, and I just won't learn it. So that's why I think, yeah, college would have been a bad idea. I would have had to learn things that I wasn't interested in, which means I would have done poorly and, would have reflected on, the grades and everything. So,
40 grand a year to take general educations that you're not interested in. That seems to be the same message that's resounding among the people that speak out against our society nowadays anyway.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So,
I could put that down into a nasally voice and up the tempo 10 times, and you'd think it was Ben Shapiro saying the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's funny.
And that's somebody that's spent an inordinate amount of time in school.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a lawyer, wasn't he?
He still is a lawyer.
Oh, still is. Okay. Yeah.
And we all know what his
Nice.
wife does.
No, I don't know. I don't actually follow Ben Shapiro all that much.
Oh,
I've
that's
seen some of his like, Ben Shapiro destroys, leftists with logic and facts. I've seen a couple of those videos, but he's not someone I really follow thoroughly.
this show is actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be, especially seeing some of his personality beforehand. But
Hmm.
you do realize the fact quickly that this is somebody that everybody would have hated if Trump hadn't won in 2016, because he was the conservative never Trumper.
Yes, yeah, I knew that, yeah.
But the running joke around his show is that he consistently and constantly, almost every episode, mentions the fact that his wife is a doctor.
Oh,
And
right.
she's super hot.
Okay,
She's super hot, gang.
yeah.
She's a doctor. I don't care about you, and I don't want to get with you or anything. I don't want to put you back in the kitchen.
That's funny. I like that.
So let's move into the topic here. Let's talk about this government shutdown and how many people around you have died from it already.
Died from the government shutdown yet. So at least I think that's what you're saying. We broke up a bit there.
Yeah, a little bit of connection issue. It's a poor router.
Yeah.
It's a poor man's router and a duct tape production.
Yeah. Hey,
How
good
many
enough for me.
how many people around you have died from this government shutdown though?
Not very many, only like 30,000, so it hasn't been that bad.
Ah,
Yeah, no, everyone's still alive. It seems like societies hasn't crumbled yet. It's pretty interesting how that works.
seems like most people who work in the private sector haven't even been affected, even though our state senators and our federal senators would like us to believe otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I work at a warehouse, and we got a visit from the Department of Agriculture today. Like, how strange that they're still running, even though the government is shut down.
Well, one of the things that I've heard a lot about the fact is TSA specifically, but other government
Hmm.
employees on the furlough are just calling in sick. And from what I understand from listening to Rush this morning, that's got to be one of your neighbors down there in your state.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in Florida. I don't mind, I don't mind saying it. Is Russians in Florida? I wasn't aware.
Live from sunny South Florida.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a little bit more south than me, so.
But yeah, he was saying that TSA's had to shut down terminals and shut down various levels of airports because they've got so many sick calls and people not coming in. And in
Yeah, I
all
don't blame
honesty,
them.
who can blame them?
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, I mean, I would probably be doing something similar if I was in that situation.
Well, you and Robert were just talking about that too on what was it, last Friday? The same
On
thing
Friday,
about
yeah.
how TSA could be privatized and how it couldn't be. And I noticed something that was missing out of your argument. We talked about it a little bit off camera as well, but
Yeah,
a lot of the things that Robert said were true, except for the fact, privatizing TSA might bump up ticket sales. And in all honesty, I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either.
Competition drives price down, and with TSA
Right,
being a government agency, it's a monopoly and they have no competition. So nobody can run
yeah.
in and undercut. Well, anybody can go in and undercut the government, but it's against the law to undercut the government.
Right. Yeah, they're not a big fan of competition, the government. So, but yeah, no, I mean, you're right about that. And I think that's something that I meant to bring up at one point, and then it just kind of, the conversation just kind of moves really quickly, and
So
that,
I
so
remember.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So no, no, I mean, I agree with that. And besides the fact that like we already foot the bill as well for the TSA,
Hmm.
so we're with their taxes, but not only that, but the prices and the baggage, fees and things like that, those go towards to kind of undermine or not undermine, but undercut the costs to the government. Even though it's still your money either way, whether it's being paid for by taxes or baggage, you know what I mean. You're still paying for it. on two different fronts. And
Right.
so with private security, you're just paying through one time, whether it be baggage fees or, whatever.
Yeah, and I was planning on getting on a flight here in the near future, and I've done it a couple times before, and they sock you right there with taxes and fees as soon as you get on, and part of that is going to be
Hmm.
paying for the TSA, but the reality is that your federal income tax is a part of what pays
Yeah.
them as well. So there's a subsidy for that, but still, you and I could get together and build a company and possibly do a better job than what TSA does. I know you brought up the fact in the time that I appeared on your show that there's
Hmm.
like what 80% of bombs that they try and slip through as training exercises actually get through.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They fail all the time. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're basically just like a presence to try and stop people from, sending bombs through or whatever they're trying to do. They're not really effective. They're just like basically like a scarecrow, sitting out in the field. They're there to scare things away, but aren't actually doing anything.
They don't like it when you remind them the fact that it's a TSA check and not a date.
What was that? You kind of broke up for a second.
They don't much care for it when you remind them of the fact that it's a TSA check and not a date.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
The male ones
Yeah,
appreciate that even less.
right. It's a quick way to get on the no-fly list.
It is. I have not
Yeah.
been on the no-fly list because of it, but I got a couple chuckles from other TSA agents that heard me say it.
That's funny. I like that. I don't know. I don't have the balls to say something like that though. I don't know. Maybe I should.
It's a nice way to lighten up an awkward situation.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think I've ever been like randomly selected or anything like that. So, I've had those little machines that, they spin the little thing around and it looks at you naked, scans your brain waves. No, I don't know. I don't know if it actually does that, but yeah, no, I mean, every time I've flown, I've never gotten screened or anything like that. So,
I did leaving Phoenix. I didn't going
oh
to
yeah.
it, but I did leaving, which is where I got to get my nice one-liner off.
That is, I'm sure they get, I'm sure they get those jokes all day. So
Again,
that's
you've got to
funny.
make the best out of a bad situation, and if you can lighten the mood, that works at the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
They must have changed something though too from before the shutdown happened to afterwards because I remember when I reported on the pre-shutdown, the TSA was on the list of people that were going to get paid, that they were paid
Hmm.
through February at the time that they were going to shut down. They must have changed that after the fact.
Weird. They must have. Yeah. Unless they are getting paid. Have you seen anything about that recently? If they're actually getting paid or not?
I don't know if they're actually getting paid or not, but I know that's the club that they like to use to beat the opposition to opening the government back up.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that they want to say is that TSA is the one that's not getting paid.
Yeah,
According to
but
the
we don't
Newsweek
know.
article, though, if I
Okay.
remember correctly, they were supposed to be getting paid through the furlough.
Huh. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I know the military is getting paid, I believe, through February as well.
Hmm.
Which makes sense. If you're gonna pay somebody, might as well be the military.
The Senate's still getting paid.
Oh, well, yeah, naturally. Yeah, the only reason I really want the government reopened is because of the bill that's currently going through the House, I believe. Yeah, going through the House of Representatives. Um, bill is finally going through. But
Try
we need
that
to
one
wait.
more time. I lost you this time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the marijuana legalization bill is going through the House. So it'd be a good thing to have the government open for just for that reason alone. So we can finally stop all this, nonsense of arresting people just for possessing a plant.
I don't know how it can go through the House. Everybody's in Puerto Rico right now.
Since the government opens back up, it's going to go through.
Do you think it's got enough legs to get through and go through? I know the paper companies have a lot of pull in Congress still.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does just because of the sheer popularity of it. People who, even people who don't use marijuana still want it to be legalized. They still think that it's ridiculous that it's illegal, things like that. Obviously, not everyone, but a large majority. In fact, it's passed in the states, like the individual states, the either medical or decriminalization has passed. And I can't remember how many states it is exactly, but there's most of them have some form of legal marijuana one way or another.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I just think it's too much support for it to fail again.
Well, the thing about marijuana and what they're using it for, from what I understand, is the fact that it has so many other industrial uses other than just smoking and getting
Yeah.
high. But it was the fact that people were smoking it and using it to get high
hmm
that the lobbyists pushed through the ability to get it criminalized so that they couldn't use the plants for all of the other industrial purposes.
I think hemp, it's like industrial hemp was actually legalized a couple of years ago. I could be wrong about that, but I
I would have
believe
to
it
look
was
into that.
because I know you can buy seeds for, just industrial hemp. You can't get high off of it, but it's just the hemp for making rope or paper or whatever, clothing, whatever you're gonna make from it.
Oh, dirt poor college kids would find a way. They always do.
Oh yeah, that's true. But no, I mean I know you can buy the seeds off of Amazon or any of those kind of sites.
Well, I know again, it's more renewable than wood, so I
Yeah,
mean for paper, you've got that right there, the rope making for it. It's a great industrial compound and it seems like there
yeah.
were other companies out there that wanted it illegalized.
And we're the only country, I'm pretty sure, that made hemp illegal, like hemp itself. You know, so everyone else in the industrialized world, uses hemp except for us, which I think we do now again, as I was saying.
I'm pretty sure we're the only country in the world that's both prohibited alcohol and has the age limit to drink it at 21.
Yeah, I do believe so. Yeah, I think that's true too.
I have got stories
Ridiculous,
from
but
people in high school when they went overseas
oh yeah.
at age 16.
I was really mad when I went to Canada, because I went to Niagara Falls, but like on the Canadian side,
Hmm.
and I was 18, and the drinking age is 19, and it was like, I think I was like 6 months away from my birthday. Like I was so mad. And then one of the waiters, it was funny, because I asked what the drinking age was, and he's like, "Oh, it's 19." And I was like, "Oh man, I'm 18." It's like, "Well, you could take a 6-hour drive over to Quebec, where it's 18 over there." And I was like, "Oh, like
Yeah,
I'm
because
here with my parents."
that varies from province to province, does it not?
Yeah, yeah,
I gotta wonder what it was like in the late 70s, early 80s when they started bumping that up from 18 to 21. Because I remember when my dad turned 18, you could buy alcohol at 18, but when my mom did, if I remember correctly, you couldn't.
yeah. Because that actually happened, and I believe he was grandfathered in because he had turned 18, and then it was like a few months later they changed it to 21. And so I think they got grandfathered in where, if you turned 18 by a certain time, you can still buy alcohol, you know, as if that was still the law. So like it was a certain date, and he had slipped in, into that date.
Well, I don't know how it was for you at the time, but I know when I was turning 21, you were sitting around there and thinking to yourself, I'm finally going to be 21, and everyone around you was saying the same thing. And I got
Yeah,
to imagine what it was like in the late 70s where people were like, oh, I'm finally going to turn 18. Oh, nope, drinking age is 21 now.
yeah, yeah. That would be horrible.
That's like
Yeah,
a kick
imagine.
in the nuts right there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine if you're 21, you're like, yes, I'm 21. Oh, nope, no, I was 25. And you're like, well, shit. Yeah,
And, at the time they thought that was the pinnacle. They had no idea how disappointing cars were going to become in the next few years on top of all of that.
oh yeah, that's true.
So they, you
Yeah,
know, they
yeah. They
thought for the.
really,
Go
they
ahead.
really got a raw deal in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's something else that I wanted to go with on the shutdown here before we moved on out of that. Well, Congress is still getting paid, and yeah, there are other bills that are moving through both chambers of Congress right now too. Because you brought up the marijuana bill,
Mm,
um, Ted Cruz obviously famously put in the bill that he wants to put an amendment in, which I would love to see how that actually goes across the states, to actually put term limits on Congress members, which is something
that's
I
right.
actually stand against, but for different
Really?
reasons.
I know. I would love to hear them because I mean I'm all for term limits.
See,
So
the problem that I have with artificially limiting out a congressperson's term doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're going to sit in there forever. I am
hmm
sitting because, what did we look at over 2016 with the presidential election? Trump, we don't believe is completely corrupted, but there were 16 other Democrats, many of whom were highly corrupted, that were sitting there licking their chops
hmm
on the fact that Barack Obama was termed out and the Democrat side wasn't any better at the time. When you get
yeah,
to the point where the president's about to term out, you've got all kinds of corrupt people that are sitting there waiting to jump in into their place. And I think if we did it for the Senate, we'd have the same thing. With that being
mm,
said, I think it would be a lot easier on everybody if we rescinded a lot of the restrictions that it takes in order to allow people to run for Congress, because there's so many hoops and everything that you have to jump through to run for Congress. You have to be sponsored, you have to get certain amounts of signatures, you have to put up a bunch of money for campaigns. And if we make a lot of this easier, you're going to see a lot more people getting in on debates in order to do the jobs that they don't feel that they're being represented by.
right.
And in that case, if your particular elected representative can't stand up to the ideas that his competition is putting forward, he'll get termed out naturally because the best ideas float to the top and the worst ones sink to the bottom. But
Yeah,
you're actually going to have to work for the nomination. You're not just going to wait around for somebody to term out.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's actually a fair point. I don't actually have a rebuttal for it, so
Our current system isn't
not off
working,
the
I can
top at
say
least.
that.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
So if
Yeah,
we're
no,
going
I
to
just
keep
never
the current
considered that.
system, we got to do something else about it, and I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
And then Crenshaw, as a freshman politician, God bless his heart, circulated through the House a bill to prevent Congress people from getting paid during the shutdown, giving them skin in the game.
Yeah. Oh, right, but they still get all the lobbying money and things like that, right?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, does it really affect them all that much? I mean, they're not going to miss their what is it, 175,000 a year? I mean, they're not going to miss that after over the millions that they get from lobbying groups. I mean, it's a nice thought, but I just don't think it's going to be all that effective.
Well, what are the lobbying groups going to do? I mean, when the people that they're trying to buy off can't do anything because the government is shut down. Eventually,
Right.
that money is going to dry up if they don't open the government back up soon. And I think that at least the Democrat senators understand that if you
hmm
read through their Twitter feeds.
Yeah. No, most of them I've seen your comments on their feeds. Hey, I like your little drinking game. That one's pretty funny.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know if I could handle that though. I don't know if my liver could handle that, you know.
Well, and the
But
biggest point, well, the
oh,
drink
go
is the
ahead.
incentive at the end. The biggest point of it is getting people out there and making the comments, so you put the
Right.
little star over the head of the people that are supporting these people blindly and realizing the fact that none of the people on our side want the government to open back up.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I'm down. I'm down for the shutdown, you know. And let the states, state governments handle everything other than like military and borders.
What's interesting to me is the fact that I don't think that was Crenshaw's idea, because I don't think he was formulating that until after another firebrand in the Congress said something. Because
Mm.
Cortez, right at the beginning, as soon as she was sworn in, said that I don't think that Congress people should be getting paid during the shutdown. Now,
Right.
she seemed to have changed her tone, or at least didn't want to answer for it when they asked if she should be receiving her paycheck while the government is shut down. She kind of just said, gotta go, and left the interview, but it did bring up a good
Naturally.
idea and an interesting point.
Yeah.
Something we
Yeah, for
definitely
sure.
need to be discussing in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think I have anything to contribute to that. Yeah, I agree.
And our favorite firebrand, and this is something I've wanted to discuss on my channel before and haven't had a chance to with everything else in the news,
Yeah.
also came up and decided that it's time for us to make a marginal tax rate on anything over $10 million at 70%. And that
Yeah,
has
that is
caused a lot of
ridiculous.
controversy on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty ridiculous. You're talking about AOC, right?
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. People are right when they say that like, she's the Trump of the left, she's the left's Trump. Just because she's always in the spotlight and always saying ridiculous things and, you know, even though she's got a big following, she's lying and so is he and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was watching it was someone from Fox News, I can't remember who it was, um, made a good point and that it's gonna, de-incentivize people to reach that level of, business or entrepreneurship because they're not gonna want to be taxed at that level. And that they're not getting salaried a lot of the time. So like you can't really tax that income. They're just going to diversify where they're getting their money from, or where how they're getting their money. So they're going to put it into offshore accounts or into stocks and things like that, so that they're not making as much and not having to pay as much, which they do already now. And I think it's at like 33% at that level now.
Mm-hmm.
They'll end up paying 15 to 20%, like when it's all said and done. And so again, I don't think that just raising the tax up is going to get us any more money based on that, and it's just going to discourage people from reaching that level.
Well, I'll give her a little bit of merit on this because what she's proposing is a marginal tax rate, and from what I understand about that, um, when you make $10 million, you still fall on your $10 million falls on the bracket before, which is still outrageous, obviously.
Yeah.
But the 70% marginal tax rate only applies to the money over $10 million. So, like, if you
Right.
made $10 million in $1, you'd have to give 70 cents of that to the government.
Right.
And it doesn't affect anything that comes under the 10 million mark,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
which that
I
does
mean,
disincentivize people, like you said, from getting over that $10 million mark. But Tim Pool made an interesting point about that I thought about, and Tim is using this to make the argument for
hmm,
raising the marginal tax rate, and it's the same argument that I've used time and time again to not make the big tax rate. We've
yeah.
used almost the same words to do the same thing. The
Yeah.
thing about
What did you
rich
have to say?
people go ahead.
No. 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 Go ahead. I was just saying. All I was saying is, what did he say?
The thing about rich people, my cousin owns a business up here.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say what the business is, but he's not rich like $10 million people rich, but he does better than most people our age. But
Sure.
he understands the same thing that I understand, that Tim understands, that a lot of the people that are against the tax rate and a lot of people are for the tax rate understand. Rich people know how to hide money.
Right.
And I have argued to the fact that if you put a massive tax rate on income over a certain amount, the rich people who are making that certain amount are suddenly not going to be making that amount. They're going to
Yeah.
hide that money in their business or their other investments, and they're going to pull their income down to a very low fee so that they don't have to pay any taxes to the government. Tim made the same argument, saying
Right.
the fact that they're going to do that, but he took it a step further because they're going to go and hide their money in their businesses. Well, what are you going to do with your money in your business except use it to grow your business? If it's sitting in the bank, you're getting a certain amount of interest off of it. If it's sitting in your business and you don't do anything with it, it's it's not doing anything for you.
Hmm.
So if you invest it in your business, you're going to want to use it to grow your business.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a way to
Hmm.
strengthen the economy. And I understand that. I don't like the idea of giving any more taxes to the federal government, but I do understand the idea behind it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That is interesting though. I'll have to consider that. I mean, I don't think I'm going to ever advocate for higher taxes, but on anyone. But no, that is an interesting point
Well,
for
any
sure.
taxes are too high, and most of us don't even realize just what we're doing in taxes either, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure your taxes get pulled out of your paycheck before, and then you get a nice check back at the end of the year from the
Nope.
government.
No, I don't get a nice check at the end. My employer is way too good at taking out exactly the right amount.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't really get that fat check.
But I mean, did you have you ever pulled out your W-2s and just look at
Oh
how much of your tech money is going into the federal government?
yeah, that's
It's
actually something my dad made me do when I got my first job. Was sit through the first year and look at this is how much money you would have if you weren't paying these taxes. And it was, of course, with being my first job, I wasn't making all that much, but it was still much larger amount than I would have liked.
yeah, and even if they pulled the taxes out and put it into a separate account for you, and then you had to pay the check to the government from that separate account,
Yeah.
you would still realize just how much the government is taking out of there. And I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot easier to, have people be okay with paying taxes when they don't see that money in the first place.
You remember what Matt said when he did his taxes?
Yeah,
If everybody had to write that check out to the government, the tax code would change the next day.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I can't imagine what kind of check they must have written. 'Cause, I mean, that's insane.
And it's quite a bit more than any of us. I'm
Oh
guessing that
yeah.
Matt makes probably just about the same amount as I do, based on some of the things that he says. But
Mm,
yeah, it's 39% of that plus business taxes on top of it that I don't pay
right,
for holding an LLC open, and a couple of other things that probably would be applicable to their business that wouldn't be applicable to like you or I.
right. Yeah, no, it's insane to think about. And, hopefully I'll be able to be in that position someday, but I'm not looking forward to the taxes. It's gonna be how to get an accountant and everything. Sounds like a lot of work.
Do you think there's any chance like a congressperson could get swayed by the CNNs or somebody else that pays them like that to try and crack down on certain businesses like LLCs that surround doing something like this?
What do you mean by crack down on them?
Like try and tax them out of existence?
Oh man, that's a horrifying thought. I hope not. I mean, maybe if they became enough of a threat to like the legacy media, then perhaps, but I don't know. Certainly hope not though.
It's always something to think about, but obviously you separate your own money from your business's money. That's
Right.
something you should do in any LLC.
Well, that's the point of an LLC, right? Is that you're a separate entity from your business.
That way, if your business gets sued, you don't get
Right.
touched out of it. You don't lose everything of your own.
Right. So I think it would be smart to have, obviously you're gonna have a separate, bank account for your business than your personal.
Well, and
So
that's the thing too. When we go back to the tax plan, and you and I are not going to make $10 million
no,
a
I'm
year.
never going to. I don't have the ambition. I don't have the work ethic.
I'm I might because I've got an idea on a startup, but I haven't heard anything back from any of the other people I've reached out to on it. But that would be a lot of work to go into, and that would be a lot. I would maybe even have to stop doing my channel if it was something that I went through. But I mean, for the most part, it's going to be CEOs of larger corporations, especially like your GMs or your General Electrics and whatnot.
Yeah.
And a lot of this does go back to the idea of, you look at who Cortez's audience is, and it's the same people who are Sanders' audience and Kamala Harris's audience, and
Hmm.
which blows my mind because that's California. But
Yeah.
the big factor that they're trying to put out with this is the fact that these rich people are a villain somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the socialist mentality, though, isn't it? That they just hate the rich, and the rich are just inherently evil because they have money. They certainly, it's almost like they didn't do anything to earn it. They didn't, do any work. They have like um, this like stereotype of like the big fat capitalist sitting in in a nice suit, smoking a cigar, drinking scotch, and yelling at people. You know,
Hey,
uh,
hey, don't blame the scotch.
no, 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 never. But yeah, I mean, when that's not the case at all, when most of the time they're working harder than anyone else. They're working, you know, twice as much as probably anyone else. They've got people underneath them, chomping at their job, trying to get their job, and especially younger people who are going to work for less than they do. You know what I mean? Less money than they do because they're just starting out as a CEO. You know what I mean? So they have to constantly politic their way into keeping their job and, maintaining profit. It's not an easy job. I don't envy anyone who has that job
Well,
at all.
and there's more to it, honestly, when you think
Yeah.
about it. It's, when my last relationship ended, it was something that I had to come to accept with because I knew what it was, and I wasn't rich over it. I wasn't a CEO or anything, but I was putting 70 hours a week into two jobs at the time, and doing my channel is easily a 70
Yeah.
hour a week job. That's torn another relationship I've been in apart. Um,
Right.
there's a reason that the stereotype out there is the big executive CEO out there that is divorced 3 times. They are working
Oh,
that
yeah.
much, definitely. I
You have
mean,
to sacrifice your entire life. I mean, your entire life is your company.
I'm sure there's the stigma out there where it's the newer and younger model is up there waiting to get in on that half of that money and get the divorce settlement. But
Yeah, that's true.
in all honesty, part of the reason that the new young hot thing is able to come up through the ranks and do that is the fact that somebody who's that deeply entrenched in the business does not have that much of a home life either. There's a lot of sacrifice when you've made
Right.
it that successful. And the livelihoods of if you're making 10 millions of dollars, I guarantee the livelihoods of at least 200,000 people are depending on you making the right decision every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you're in charge of people's livelihoods, all
Hmm.
the employees underneath you, to make sure that they get the amount of money that they need to survive. And, you're dealing with their, vacation days, sick days, whatever. I mean, yeah, it's like,
Well, in the interest of time, I think we're going to have to cut that one there, but I want to take a little bit of a
yeah.
look at the presidential field
All
and
right.
how that's shaping out as we're going because of course obviously God gave us the greatest gift of the world, and by God I mean the Hopi rain gods or the sky god or whoever else it was. And now we have
Right.
Elizabeth Warren running for president, which we couldn't really talk about the last time we were on camera together because
Yeah.
it had just happened literally a couple hours before.
Yeah. Wasn't it happening like during or
It might have
like
been
during this
happening
thing?
during, actually.
Yeah. Because I know it was New Year's Eve
Yeah,
that it happened. Yeah. That is, yeah. Elizabeth Warren, I just don't think that's a good idea. I mean, especially going up against Trump.
you
I
shush your
mean,
mouth because I want to watch that.
no, no, I want to watch it. I'm just saying, it's like a car wreck. You don't want to look, but
You don't want to
you're
look
going
away.
to. You don't want to look away. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that was the first, and there are a lot of people who have been posturing to do so. I don't know how many people have actually come out and physically declared and filed the paperwork to do so, but there are a lot of people out there who have made it known that they're going to, and they're in the process of filing the paperwork and doing so.
yeah,
Obviously, we all watched the Kavanaugh hearing, and we watched the senators of various types posture themselves and give themselves free campaign ads while they were trying to do so. And that's why we're
Yeah,
talking about Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, who
yeah,
scares the
Corey.
crap out of me, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. Who was the other one? The was that the from Hawaii?
Mazie Hirono.
Is that who it was?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the other one that was making a big name for herself, but I don't know the fact she hasn't mentioned anything or made an announcement. I
Hmm.
don't know if the fact I don't know if she's actively seeking that or not. And then there's
Yeah,
Tulsi Gabbard as well, who has officially put her name out there, and she is from Hawaii as well, but she wasn't
I
the
think
big name
she.
during the Kavanaugh hearings.
I think she was the one I was thinking of, though.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
No, she was kind of
yeah.
quiet during the Kavanaugh hearings, so we didn't hear much about her then, but
Hmm.
that's a train wreck that I kind of enjoying watching because the Democrats already hate her and she's one of their own.
Yeah, they're already eating her alive, so already cannibalizing her. Yeah, so it really seems like Elizabeth Warren is the kind of the front runner at the moment. I think it's just because she's the one who's really put her name out there recently. But at the same time, it's like, why do you honestly think you have a chance? I mean, Trump has already defeated you. He's already defeated her already.
Yeah.
With the Pocahontas thing, the DNA test, it's over for her. I don't know why she would try.
Well, there's a lot of name recognition that goes along with that, though. That's something you have to
Yeah.
keep in mind. And you keep in mind the fact that anybody who's risen to the ranks of presidential nominee had massive name recognition before doing
Yeah.
so. I mean, tell me who else ran in the primary against Mitt Romney in 2020 or not 2020, 2012.
Who? Mitt Romney, you said?
Who ran against Mitt Romney in the primaries in 2012?
Oh yeah. Um Herman Cain,
Yeah,
wasn't that one of them? Yeah. Um oh man. Yeah, that's probably about it. That's probably all I got.
Pat Buchanan and Herman Cain, and those are the only ones that had any
Pat
other sort
Buchanan,
of
yeah.
name recognition.
Yeah,
And of course, Romney rose to the top in the era of Obamacare somehow because he was the architect of Obamacare.
right. But yeah, yeah, I mean the name recognition thing is good, but I mean with Elizabeth Warren though, the reason I say she's already lost is that, Trump was already able to play her like a fiddle with just a kind of an offhanded comment, and got her to, basically do her dance for him. you know, and
With
that was the kind of an offhanded thing that he was saying. It wasn't like he was, being completely serious about it. He was just like, "Oh, go ahead and do this," and then she did it. So I don't think it would be any better if he's actually trying.
would that be a rain dance by any chance?
Probably.
This is why I consider this to be a gift, the fact that she did this.
Yeah. Oh no, it'll be fun to watch. I just don't think it's going to be ending well for her at all.
Well, the thing that I keep in the back of my mind when I think about the Democrat presidential field is not who's going to go up against Trump. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think about all of this is Hillary Clinton. Number one, whether or
Mm.
not she runs again, which is still up in the air at this point somehow.
I don't think she will.
You
I
don't.
don't think she'll do it.
How much money do you think the
No.
DNC still owes her? Because that'll be the deciding factor.
How much money do they owe her?
Yeah,
All of it. Just all of it.
yeah. I'm,
They owe
I meant
they owe
like an
her all
actual
the
number
money and
figure.
power. Oh, I have no idea.
Because that'll be the deciding factor as to whether she runs or not. Whether they owe her enough to put the super delegates out and make her the nominee.
Right.
But even if Clinton doesn't run, one of the things that you've got to look at about the Democrat National Convention, the committee, and the people who are going to be controlling the delegates and super delegates
Mhm.
is the fact that we also have to pay attention to whoever Hillary Clinton endorses going through
Right.
on this and who she doesn't endorse and what's
And I
going to
think
come out about everybody that she doesn't endorse before
yeah,
we even get close to the Donald.
think that's what kind of role she's going to be playing in the next election is she's going to be endorsing, one, two, three people, whoever, I think that's really what the role that she's going to be relegated to.
And with all of the money and all of the influence and power that the Clintons both have in the Democrat National Committee as it is, we're going to find out a lot of things about the people that she doesn't endorse in a
Yeah, it's
hurry.
true. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be really interesting. I think it's gonna be even better than the last one.
I mean,
Yeah,
is there enough popcorn in the world to sit and watch the Democrat
right.
field eat
Yeah,
themselves?
it'll be the best season of America yet.
America, the reality show.
That's right. Exactly.
Because I mean, I think Warren is going to be the one that Hillary puts her backing behind as an early prediction
Yeah,
because we're both sitting in elitist northeast circles. They're similar in age range. People were obviously saying that Hillary should have had Elizabeth Warren run behind her as vice president. So there's a lot of camaraderie there.
yeah. So I think she's gonna be endorsed by Hillary, but I just don't think she's gonna have like she might have momentum to start with, but I don't think she's gonna have the staying power. She's just going to be destroyed in any kind of debates. It's going to be like it was last time, where it's just kind of throwing insults back and forth.
Hmm.
And as we know, Trump is really, really good at insults, and I don't think Elizabeth Warren has it in her to be able to do that. I think she's especially because she's trying to have this whole like everyman kind of like look about her. She's like with the let me get a beer while I'm on this live stream.
Which could
It's
not
just,
have
I
been the
don't
best thing at all for her live stream,
think.
especially
Oh
given
yeah,
the history of anything. You might as
right,
well have just said, "Let me go get some fire water."
right. Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me like she was being really racist doing that, making commentary on the fact that natives have a huge alcoholism problem. I mean, it seems very insensitive to me.
I am most interested right now in figuring out what kind of dirt the DNC has on Kamala Harris. I'm not gonna lie,
Oh
because
yeah, that
that's
would
got
be
to be
interesting.
juicy as hell. I mean, we've already got the sexual harassment claim that came out of um, the person that she brought with her from the California Attorney General's office into D.C., but there's got to be so much more out there. Uh-oh, I think we lost John. Testing 1 2. Testing testing. Hey, you came
Oh,
back.
there you go. You came back.
I am very interested, as I was saying before, in what kind of dirt the DNC has on Kamala Harris, especially with the sexual harassment thing that came with her assistant out of the California Attorney General's office and followed her into D.C.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be really interesting. I guess we'll find out, like you said, about anyone who Hillary doesn't endorse. Find out all the things that they've been up to.
And one of the things that's amazing about that is the fact that whoever the Clintons don't endorse, that's not automatically disqualify her either. I mean, it was Hillary that started the whole
Yeah,
birtherism thing, and
yeah,
Barack Obama
that's
still
true.
rose to the top.
Yeah, yeah. Despite that, well, I think 'cause that was just like too ridiculous on the face of it that you know to be believed. I don't think a large amount of people believed it. Even people on the right.
What do you think about the influence of the super progressives out there in what's going to happen in 2020 and who's going to rise to the top and who's going to sink to the bottom in the primaries?
Yeah, I think a lot of the old guard, uh, like Democrats, are going to be having a really hard time fighting it up. They're going to be fighting an uphill battle basically to get that super progressive like support.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I think it's dangerous to pander too much to them, to the super progressives, because while they're very vocal, they are a minority on the left. So if you pander too far to the left, you're gonna forget all the centrist left people that you have that who would otherwise support you.
Well,
So I mean, you kind of have to really play this like balancing, this balancing act of trying to pander to both sides without alienating either side. And I don't think it's going to be easy for them.
Well, the interesting thing about that, I mean, I don't live there, but I live close enough that I spend an inordinate amount of time in Madison, Wisconsin, which is a massively liberal stronghold in Wisconsin. And I have had conversations with people about this who believe that Bernie Sanders is a right wing extremist and they need to find
Wow,
somebody else.
a right wing
Yeah.
extremist. Now, see, I've got a friend who's a self-proclaimed communist, and he's actually been on my podcast, I believe the fifth episode, and he says that Bernie is a right winger, not an extremist, but that he's just a standard, right winger, as is Hillary Clinton and most of the other Democrats. So I've seen that before, but not the extremist though.
Yeah,
Like
I've
certainly not.
I've had that argument. I've heard those words come out of a person's mouth and I couldn't believe that it was happening.
Yeah,
But that'll give you an idea on where the field is expected to shake out and some of the internal battles that are going to happen from that direction of the field. And that's even coming from the fact that I believe under the DNC rules, Bernie Sanders can't even run.
yeah. I don't think it would be a good idea for him to run, even if he could. He's just way too old now. Just way too old. I don't think he would have the support or the strength, after giving in to Hillary and, endorsing her. That was kind of why he had so much support, was that he wasn't Hillary.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, I'll go vote for Hillary. He lost a lot of support. And I don't think he'll be able to get that momentum back.
Well, I think the Trump card, and I use that as a pun because it's actually Trump in this case. And there
Right.
is a unifying force that we, or not we, but they feel that they need to come out and say, we need to get Trump out of office no matter what. And I don't think a lot of them realize why.
Yeah.
They just go by what their politicians have told them as to why it is. But all the same, that is going to be the major unifying force throughout all of this is Trump needs to get out of office. That's the biggest thing we need to do is make sure that we get rid of
Right.
him.
Right. But I think that's going to be a detriment to the Democrats, actually, in that they're all going to be vying for that position, right? Because say you get Trump out of office, well, someone's got to fill that void, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's it going to be, right? So I think they're just going to be clamoring over each other, and I think it's going to be very, very dirty and nasty on that, on that climb up to the presidency.
Yeah, because there's going to be a definite unification as soon as they get their last nominee picked. But, what's
Yeah.
going to happen with all the dirt that comes out when everybody sees what.
Oh
Once
yeah.
everybody sees all of the dirt out there, are they still going to be able to vote for that kind of person when they see where all the money comes from, all the banking that's
Yeah.
holding on to a lot of these people?
Yeah, I think the Democrat Party is going to end up tearing itself apart and, just completely destroying their chances for this election and maybe even the next.
I, I think that's definitely true. I mean, there are reports out there from mainstream news sources. I saw one from an op-ed piece in New York Times that said that Jill Stein was a Russian plant and a Russian operative
Of course, so is everyone. So am I, and so are you.
because she
So,
took that many votes away from Hillary and cost her the election.
yeah, that's what it was. That's what cost her the election.
Oh, I
It
can't
wasn't
wait
that
till.
she was wasn't that she was completely unlikable and completely unrelatable and just a complete horrible person. It had nothing to do with that. She's perfect. It's everyone else who's the Russian bot,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah, if we're all Russian bots, I can't wait for my channel to get big, or either that or me run for Congress and somebody to reach back and find out I went out on a couple dates with a Russian foreign exchange student in high school, which actually happened.
Oh, oh wow. So yeah, you've already destroyed your chances at a political career then.
I,
That's
I'm
it.
Russian influenced.
Yeah, you have Russian connections.
Well,
Oh man.
we're pushing up onto the edge of where the show should be. One last thing that I want to do and end all of this on a positive note, even though this has actually been a pretty positive conversation so far. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
tell my listeners something about yourself that something that has nothing to do with politics, a hobby that you're into, something that you're reading, something that you're doing, just something completely non-political that's about yourself.
Um, so I'm a big fan of history. I consider myself a history student, specifically like the medieval Europe, and Napoleonic era, British Empire, especially like old British Navy is my specialty. Those huge tall wooden ships, they're amazing. Um, so yeah, I love learning about all of those, and I know you said nothing about politics, but I love learning about the politics of that time, and how the things worked. Just things like that. It's a lot of fun for me. I meant to actually grab one of the books that I could recommend, but it's over there. Nelson's Trafalgar is a really, really good book from that era, and it kind of explains the politics of the battle. So it goes to like the events that led up to it, and the reasons why it was important, and the reasons why it was such a massive battle, and the fallout from it, like the results of it, and all the different details, like every single detail down to like this happened at this time, this happened at this time, and things like that. So it's really, really interesting. Um, and then I'll do like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a big tabletop player. I enjoy that. Um, yeah, that's about it, I think.
Well, I'm going to link everything in the description below, and if you get me a copy of the name of that book here, I'll link the Amazon link for that in the description below. But for those who are just listening, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at the Generational Gap on YouTube and at the Gen Gap P on Twitter.
All right, everybody, go check out John's show on YouTube. He and his podcast partner actually do a pretty great show. I've been on there. It's a really interesting talk. You guys do twice a week, correct?
Yeah, we're actually just starting that tonight. Starting to do 2 days a week,
Uh,
Mondays and Fridays. Yep.
what time?
8:30. That'll be 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
All right, go over and check that out. John, thanks for being on here. And
All right. Thanks for having me.
everybody remember, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts, draw your own conclusions. John, you have last word.
All right. Yeah. I'll see you guys over at the Generational Gap.